Welcome back to WMNF's Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Kinane. A bill in the Florida legislature could have the effect of limiting rooftop solar power. HB 741 is opposed by environmentalists and by the solar power industry. And I'm bringing on two guests right now. Wayne Wallace is founder and CEO of Solar Source, and Scott McIntyre is the CEO and president of Solar Energy Management. Welcome to WMNF's Tuesday Cafe, Scott and Wayne.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me, Sean?
We can hear you just fine. So thank you very much for coming on the show. First, since our audience doesn't know who's speaking, who is who, why don't you, maybe one of you, introduce yourself and then give a little background. Let's start with the concept of net metering when it comes to solar power.
Okay, I guess I'll start. Hi, Wayne Wallace, CEO, founder of Solar Source. Back in 2008, we had a policy developed called net metering, solely electric systems for homes and businesses. At that time was very expensive, so we didn't do much with it. And the utility companies just said, hey, take it. You know, that stuff's too expensive anyways. And over the years, this net metering, which enables one to synchronize with the electric grid on your home or your business, it enables you to do a one-for-one net metering credit. So if you consume a kilowatt hour of electricity, you can push back a kilowatt hour of electricity. And solar photovoltaics, that's the solar electric panels and inverters and everything you need to have your own mini power plant on your home or your business. Those costs have come down about 2,000% since 2008. So economically, they make a lot of sense.
So maybe the most basic way of saying it is if you have solar power on your roof and you're generating solar power, you don't have to pay the company for the power that you provide, that you provide.
That is correct. In fact, every person or business that invests in a solar power plant on their home or their business, they're actually doing a service to the electric grid. So they're making it stronger, they're making it more resilient, it's more of a microgrid. It's less costly to maintain. People that have solar systems, the value added, the value of solar is oftentimes 50% greater than the retail number. So it helps, everybody wins. It lowers the cost for everyone.
That's Wayne Wallace, founder and CEO of Solar Source. We also have Scott McIntyre on the line, CEO and president of Solar Energy Management. And we're going to be talking about this bill in the Florida legislature, but I'm trying to kind of set the scene here of maybe the history of solar in Florida and why people have solar power before we get to this bill and how that might change things. So maybe it's still, I'm asking Wayne, I don't know, unless Scott wants to weigh in on this. For example, let's say it's a good month for sun, but it's not super hot or super cold and I don't have to run my electricity that much. And I actually create more power from my solar rooftop than my house uses. I can sell some of that energy back to the grid, back to all the rest of them. So how much would, for example, Duke Energy or TECO pay me for a kilowatt hour of energy versus how much a consumer would pay those companies for that amount?
Scott, you want to take it?
Oh, go ahead, Wayne. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, Sean, if you really want to size a solar power plant for your home or your business to offset, 75 to 100% of your electrical load. So it doesn't behoove you to generate more than you use because the utilities only pay what's called an avoided cost after you true up with everything that you use. So the avoided cost is about 3 cents a kilowatt hour. So we size systems just to do 75 to 100% of people's electrical load. And some people say, hey, I'm going to get electric cars. Can we size it up? That kind of stuff. The electric utilities don't like you sizing up right now. They just don't want you to, they don't like energy efficiency. In fact, they hate it. And they don't like rooftop solar. They hate it.
Well, we're going to find out more about how much they hate it and how much effort they're putting into harming it in I'm sure as how you would describe it later in the show. But, I think my point there was getting to the point where they're going to pay you 3 cents a kilowatt hour, whereas you're going to pay them a lot more. So there's already kind of built in, maybe you could use the word disadvantage for an advantage to the solar that the power companies have. If you have solar, they get to buy it at wholesale and they can sell it back at the retail prices. So the whole reason I set that up is just to get to this point where this bill that we're going to talk about, which is called House Bill
741.
Thank you.
Yep.
House Bill 741. It's moving through the Florida legislature. And the premise of the bill is that the utilities, the power companies think that people with solar rooftops are kind of harming the rest of us by not contributing enough to the upkeep of the grid, for example. So what would that House bill do?
Well, there's a House Bill 741, there's a Senate Bill Companion 1024, and these bills would basically cripple the rooftop solar industry in Florida and take us back 20 years. They really, again, electric utilities, they're in the business selling electricity, not having people generate it on their home or business. So energy efficiency and rooftop solar, they really just want to, just stop it. They don't like it, and it's going to harm about 40,000 jobs, and it'll stop solar choice for homeowners and businesses that would like to generate their own power, be solar farmers, essentially. You put solar panels in your yard, you put them on your rooftop, and you got your own power plant. And the utility companies, they don't want us being independent. They don't want that freedom of choice. So essentially, this bill is going to kill. It's like chopping the legs off the solar industry in Florida. And yeah.
What does it do?
Well, the bill, exactly what it does is, instead of giving a 1-for-1 credit, so if you buy a kilowatt hour and you produce a kilowatt hour, they only want to pay you the first year they want to give you 75% of the retail. And then they want to move it to 50% of retail. And then they want to give you avoided cost, which is 3 cents. So they want to charge you retail 12 cents and only pay you 3 cents. So it's really, basically, it's a crime. And, you get just as an example, a utility like Florida Power and Light, their profits are about 18 billion a year. So, they've paid off the legislators in Tallahassee. I mean, we've had hundreds of people testify that, there is no cross subsidy. We have proof. In fact, in my hands here is testimony from the Duke Energy Carolinas that shows that solar actually helps the grid, and everybody wins, everybody does better. And we also have a report from the University of Central Florida that shows, hey, rooftop solar is less costly than utility scale solar. So, while, we go to these hearings in Tallahassee, and they state over and over and over that, hey, poor people are subsidizing rich people that get solar. And then the fact of it is 35% of everybody that buys a solar system, their income's less than $50,000. So these are hardworking Floridians that want to save money on their electric bill. And if this bill passes, that option to save money on your electric bill, it's gone. So, they just want to take away that freedom. So, that's a power grab, basically, right?
Our guest is Wayne Wallace, founder and CEO of Solar Source. We're also speaking with Scott McIntyre, the CEO and president of Solar Energy Management. I'm Sean Kinane. You're listening to Tuesday Cafe. It's 10:44 in the morning. And Scott, I wanted to give you a chance to weigh in here. I don't know if I heard Wayne say that Florida Power and Light was kind of really behind this bill. What do we know about who is sponsoring or who is funding the bill here?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, because they didn't even try to hide the paper trail. The paper trail is clear. They sent the language for the bills to Senator Bradley in the Senate and to Representative McClure in the House, and they copied that language from Florida Power and Light, and then miraculously right after that, their money showed up in their accounts. So this is a power grab. Unfortunately, politics, the way it works in Florida, is follow the money. And so the bottom line is that they are paying the politicians off to get this done. So our only recourse, since we don't have the same kind of money, is to get your listeners to contact Speaker Sprowls, that's Chris Sprowls in the House, and to the Senate President Wilton Simpson and or Ron DeSantis, the governor, and say, kill this bill. It is anti-Floridian, it's anti-solar. One of their arguments, Sean, is that the solar penetration, the amount of power that comes from solar statewide, is too much. And so consequently, and just for your listeners' edification, solar only contributes 4% of power production in the state of Florida. Coal produces 12% of power in the state of Florida. So 4% to them is too much. At the same time, what's going to happen when this bill passes, and frankly, the bill will pass, is the utilities will pick it up. They will bill customers for utility solar. They'll get all the incentives that regular businesses and homeowners get. So it costs them less to produce power. And then they'll sell that cheap power, that's their solar power, to us for full retail rate. So again, the only recourse that we have, we appreciate you coming on the show, is for your listeners to contact Speaker Sprowls, Senate President Simpson, and Governor DeSantis. Yep.
Our guests are Scott McIntyre, the CEO and President of Solar Energy Management. And our other guest is Wayne Wallace, founder and CEO of Solar Source. And they're here to talk about HB 741 and a companion Senate bill that are moving through the Florida legislature right now that would change net metering rules for solar power. And they and others have said that it would really hurt the solar power industry and it would hurt solar rooftop energy production in Florida. And the bill is ready for a vote in the full House because it passed 3 committees there. It's going to be heard, I believe, in the Senate Rules Committee today at 1:30 before, if it's supported there, it will go then to the full Senate. So it's almost ready, like 2 more votes, I guess 3 more votes until it's ready to go to Governor DeSantis's desk to be signed. So what would you say to people about the urgency of people acting now?
Again, we have the ability to light their phones up. We have the ability to stuff their emails full of emails saying, do not vote for this bill. We are aware of who you are. I mean, Senate President Wilton Simpson is running for agricultural commissioner. If he wants your vote, tell him that you're aware that he's allowed this to happen and he's not stopped it. Again, we're talking about 40,000 people that will lose their jobs in the state of Florida. The Florida solar industry will be set back over 20 years. The reason why this bill is such a damage is because it takes the financial model as to why you buy solar, that's the return on investment, and doubles it, pushes it way out. So consequently, most businesses will not do it. They'll just wait. That doesn't work, won't do it. And that's why Florida Power and Light decided to go this route. And so the only thing we have, since we don't have money, is the ability to call their phones, to email them, and tell them, kill the bill. That's it.
And Scott, I just got an email in that I'd like to read, and maybe either you or Wayne could answer it. This comes from David in Dunedin, and his question is, if I have solar, would it help me if I go off the grid? So that's his question.
Wayne, you want to take that?
Yeah, so there are rules, and the monopoly investor-owned utilities like Florida Power and Light, Duke, TECO, all of them, they've gotten into the building code. New construction, you have to have a hookup to electrical power, and then if you want to disconnect from the electrical grid, some states in Florida and some municipalities will allow you to do so, some won't. So you need batteries, and then you have to synchronize and all this kind of stuff. So it gets a little more complex, and it can be done in some areas, but you got to check the laws.
That's the voice of Wayne Wallace, founder and CEO of Solar Source. We also have been hearing from Scott McIntyre, the CEO and president of Solar Energy Management. You're listening to WMNF's Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Kinane. It's 10:49 in the morning. If you'd like to email us a question, it's dj@wmnf.org. We might have time to take some calls as well, 813-239-9663. You can also text 813-433-0885. If you do text, please sign your name. So I've heard the two of you talk about the number of solar energy jobs that might be lost with this bill. You're saying up to 40,000 jobs. What makes you think that jobs will be lost in the solar power energy in Florida if HB 741 and its Senate companion pass in the Florida legislature?
Well, as Scott mentioned earlier, that basically it's the return on investment. I mean, hey, solar energy needs to make economic sense. Rooftop solar makes all kinds of economic sense, but this bill, if it's passed, the utility companies, they want that economic modeling to be worse. So instead of paying you full retail, they want to pay you 75% for a year, and then 50% for a year, and then instead of paying 12 cents of what they charge you, they want to pay you 6 cents, and then they want to pay you 3 cents. So it takes the return on investment, it just pushes it out there. So economically, it makes it harder to make the numbers work. And it does hurt the grid too. So, and it makes natural gas more expensive to buy too, Sean. So, we've heard words that, oh yeah, this is a cross subsidy. It's going to be a train wreck and all these people are paying for solar. That's such a fallacy, false information. Solar helps strengthen the grid. It helps lower costs for everyone, and it just makes economic sense. And heck, it just so we get clean air and we get clean water. What beautiful fringe benefits those are too, for future generations. I mean, they want to kill democracy is really what this is about. And they have a monopoly, and they don't want people putting solar on their rooftops.
Hey, Sean, one thing is very important for your listeners to understand is east of the Mississippi, the state of Florida gets the most solar radiant energy. I'll say that one more time. East of the Mississippi, the state of Florida gets the most solar radiant energy. Our power production from it is only 4% of the grid. In the next, by 2030, it's projected that 85% of our power in Florida will come from natural gas. Frankly, I don't have a problem with natural gas. The issue is instead of the 4% that you're at right now, it's going to go down. The utilities are going to say, oh, no, we're going to put more up. DeSantis says, oh, we're going to be a leader in solar power. Well, you can't be a leader in solar power because you don't have enough open land. What you have in Florida is you have rooftops. Rooftop solar is the future of solar in the state of Florida. End of subject.
Amen.
Our guests are Scott McIntyre, the CEO and president of Solar Energy Management, and Wayne Wallace, the founder and CEO of Solar Source. We're talking about HB 741, which is moving quickly through the Florida House of Representatives and Senate. Let me ask you this about the monopoly utilities. They have a financial incentive to do things like build new coal or whatever, any kind of fossil fuel power plants. They get subsidies, or they get that kind of is taken out of their costs. You would think that in general, if this were set up in a way that made business sense, that they would be going for the cheapest way to produce energy, which is solar power. But they're really pushing hard against this solar power. What is it about the monopoly utilities, the way that they're set up, that makes it kind of disincentivizes people having their own power creation?
Yeah, Sean, let me answer that. So the monopoly electric utilities were set up about over 100 years ago to, expand and do, rural electrification of our country, all throughout the country. It made sense 100 years ago. And they were incentivized to build generation facilities, do transmission lines, distribution lines, substation, peaker power plants, build the infrastructure. That was their incentive. And they get a 12% return on that incentive. So, they don't really make much money when they sell electricity, but they make a minimum of a 12% return on capital expenditures for, new generation facilities, transmission lines. So, if they sell more electricity, they get to build more generation facilities and they make more money. If they sell less electricity, they build less generation facilities and they make less money. So the 100-year-old business model is antiquated. It just needs to be changed. If it were changed, they would be on the side, they'd be on the low cost side of rooftop solar. But their whole business model is so old. The last monopoly in the United States, it's outdated. It's their business model that needs to be changed, not the net metering policy that needs to be changed.
We have an email question from Char in Largo who says she has rooftop solar through Solar Source, and Duke Energy is allowed to charge me a minimum of $30 a month, whether I use that much power. Because the Florida Public Service Commission said they could, I have logged a complaint with the FPSC, but really don't expect much of a response. So what can you tell us about this new minimum $30 a month charge?
Well, yeah, here's what happened there. So we have a law on the books where the legislature is supposed to promote the further development of rooftop solar, distributed solar, they call it. And, they're in Tallahassee right now trying to kill it. So, they just don't observe that law. So that law, you're not supposed to, single out any technology. Well, initially that $30 charge was going to be just for solar only, and they realized that they can't discriminate against solar. So then they decided, the attorneys at, they've got their own legal team. Some of these monopoly utilities have 300, 400, 500 attorneys on their payroll. They basically said, well, we were going to charge $30 a month just for solar users. Let's just charge a minimum $30 for everybody. So they didn't break that law. So that's what happened there.
That's Wayne Wallace, founder and CEO of Solar Source. Scott McIntyre is with us as well. He's the CEO and president of Solar Energy Management. You're listening to 88.5 FM WMNF Tampa. Mike writes in and asks, when will they vote? And I believe the answer is today at 1:30. The Senate Rules Committee is voting on this bill. Is that right? And then if that passes, then it'll go to the Florida House, the full Florida House and the full Florida Senate. When will that be?
Correct.
Well, you're right about the 1:30 vote today. It's the last committee stop. It's past the 5 previous committee stops, even with hundreds and hundreds of solar companies and employees and hardworking Floridians and solar system owners have come up to Tallahassee to testify against this bill, but they pass it. They believe there's a cross subsidy. They believe it costs more money, which is totally the opposite of the facts. So after this, it'll probably pass today at 1:30. And, they'll have 100 people in opposition, 2 people for, but they've been, the legislators have already been paid off. And, this is, if there's ever been a done deal, this is the biggest done deal I've ever seen in my life. And then it goes to the House floor, then it goes to the Senate floor, and nobody can be present for that. And if it passes these 2 House floor, Senate floor after today, then it becomes law unless the governor stops it. He's the only guy that can stop it after that is the governor. But as Scott mentioned, call House Speaker Chris Sprowls, call Senate President Wilton Simpson, and call Governor DeSantis. So we have their phone numbers. We sent them to you, Sean, and we have their email addresses. We got to light them up. We got to call people out there that want freedom for solar and want choice. And the only thing we can do at this point is just light up their phones, as Scott said.
Let's see if we have time to take one call. We have Shannon in Tampa. Hi, Shannon. Can you quickly ask your question?
Yeah, I want to go and ask, what if the electric companies decided that, hey, if you can't use what you generate or find a way of storing it yourself, we don't want any of it. You can't put your electricity on our grid.
Thank you for that question. So that would, I guess, if there was no net metering, what would the consequences be then?
Well, if there were no net metering and it's a law to be hooked up to the electric utility, then it'd be illegal for you to install solar. So they're going to tell you, sorry, you can't do that. That's the way it is in some states. Now, here in Florida, you can hook up solar. And if they said, we don't want your power, then you do it with batteries and you'd still have to be disconnected from the grid. And if you can't be disconnected, then your options and your choices are basically just to keep paying them as long as you live. And those rates are going to go up, 5% per year, which they have been. That's the average. So, yeah.
Well, Scott and Wayne, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thank you very much for coming on WMNF's Tuesday Cafe.
Great. Contact your representatives, Senator and Governor DeSantis. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Sean. Thank you for your listeners.
Yeah, thanks very much. Wayne Wallace is founder and CEO of Solar Source, and Scott McIntyre is the CEO and president of Solar Energy Management. You've been listening to WMNF Tampa 88.5 FM. This is the Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Kinane. Thanks to John Dunn for answering phones. You've been listening to Tuesday Cafe. It's every Tuesday morning at 10. And if you like the programming on 88.5 FM, please consider donating at WMNF.org. In this time slot tomorrow, Shelley will host Midpoint, and we'll hear that the rent is too damn high. Her guests will be Tampa City Council member Louis Vieira and a leader with the St. Pete Tampa Tenants Union. And next up, we have Wavemakers with Janet and Tom Scherberger. That's coming up after NPR headlines. You're listening to WMNF Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota, and Lakeland. Thanks so much for listening.